It's Kevin Cross again, and I decided to practice what I preach and go outside and try to get some sun and social distance at the same time. Probably years from now, if somebody looks at this VPod, they'll say, what is social distancing? But we all know exactly how that feels, and we're all going stir crazy. But how does this measure in your financial decisions? Well, some have made some difficult financial decisions in the stock market, and they might have been prudent for years, maybe for decades, maybe for their entire lives. And then they've seen their equity drop 20, 30, 40, 50, 75%. And there are some ages, and maybe it's all ages, that you could really generate a lot of fear about how you will recover. I don't know, old salty attorney tell me once, it's impossible to catch a falling knife. When it comes to margin, when it comes to when to sell, when the market is low, that adage is pretty sound. But there are situations where we will need to sell when the market is dropping. Nobody wants to admit this, and nobody really wants to even speak into it because there's a lot of fear and regret in doing something like that. The regret comes in usually when you sell, it's at the bottom. I mean, ask any investor out there, or maybe armchair quarterback, how many times they've sold at the bottom of the market and bought when the market is high. It's almost humorous. Unless you're one of these pundits on TV, you're really not doing it according to Hoyle. However, there's certain times in your life where you've got to pull the plug, and some people have done that this past week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe in the last, even today even. And maybe going outside going, let me get some perspective. Will I be able to regain? Will I live with the regret of selling low? Will today the market go up, and will I have missed a 30, a 15, a 5, a 50% increase? And maybe the answer to that is yes, we have missed something today. And today the market is up. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow? We don't know what this COVID-19 looks like here. We're hoping for the best, but all we know now is it's hurry up and wait. So I just want to address today those who have liquidated because of margin and or margin calls, margin issues, or maybe they've just got upset with the financial institution saying you need to throw another $10,000, $5,000, $11,000 in, and you've just liquidated everything you have in margin. Now, if someone else is talking to you right now, they're going to say, well, why were you foolish enough to have margin? Why would you do that? That's basic. They're going to throw stones at you, but during the good times, like 2 months ago, you might have been using your margin and gaining quite a bit on that, whatever that institution might charge you 8% a year. But that's all water on the bridge right now. How can we go forward right now? How can we go outside, smell the flowers, and say, I'm gonna regain, I have time. Even though everything is telling you don't have time to rebuild, you do not have time to get that money back. You are down 75%, you're down 100,000, you're down 250,000, you're down $1 million. You didn't think you could be that far down. And now you have only a year left to retirement. You only have, or till retirement, you only have 10 years left. You only have 20 years. Or maybe you're saying, now I have to work until not only I'm 70, but I'm gonna have to work until I'm 90. And so all of this fear is going to compound this pandemic, and what I believe is the greatest risk of a pandemic is unfounded fear. And when margin comes in the door, often that fear gets increased. And so I decided, hey, look, let me go outside, let me see about the sun, let me smell the flowers, let me even take my shirt off, hopefully that's not offensive, and get some perspective. Because I don't think there's one investor out there who does everything right. And if you're like me, you're an armchair quarterback, you're just trying to make good decisions, and you're trying to increase and so that you can build systematically not only your life, your portfolio, your holdings. So I just want to give you a little bit of perspective. There are tomorrows. Every day will bring us to tomorrow. I think of the people in 1929 when they were jumping off buildings, and I wonder, how could anybody have that type of fear? And I understand a lot of them were as a result of borrowing. I mean, maybe in today's terms it would be margin. But maybe we can catch some perspective and know that you take a deep breath and then look for the fundamentals, the same fundamentals that I believe, investors, that you got to this point right before the debacle, right before the pandemic, where the market was here and you were riding it. You have the same fundamentals that you had then that you have now. And tomorrow and today and next week, there'll be opportunities. And you may not be buying tens of thousands of shares. It might be 1,000 shares. And maybe it's slow and steady brings that prosperity. I don't know what slow and steady looks like. Every day feels like it's slow. But tomorrow and then the next day, and there'll be opportunities. And stay tuned for the VCast, where I'm going to give you opportunities to take a look at certain things. And maybe there's going to be opportunities in the market, maybe in travel, maybe in these cruise stocks and the hospitality stocks. Are they at their all-time low? I don't know. But they certainly are at 50 and 75%. So there might be opportunities there. So I don't think the opportunities have passed us, and everyone who is lost in the area of margin and has sold everything and now has just a couple of dollars left is completely out. I think this is a great time to even say, I look back to that moment and I had this much money and now look at it. So I want you to be encouraged that we're in this together, but it doesn't have to be a fearful time. It can be one of those, new day, new sunny day. Maybe the best is in front of us. So stay tuned for some more CPA podcast with Kevin Cross. Bye.